Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swagglehos. And in this video, we got ourselves another comic book unboxing here on the channel for a raw key comic book that I already have a graded copy of. And so in this video, I want to do, of course, this unboxing with you guys, talk about this key, talk a little bit about why I decided to pick it up, what I paid for it, but most importantly, talk about this idea of the raw book rise or the raw book revolution that I feel like we're feeling in 2023. But before I get into it, if you guys could drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, helps support the channel, do one of those things, I would appreciate it. But let us get into this unboxing here today. We got to undo this box, undo the box. Let me get into the unboxing first, and then we're going to kind of have this conversation about sort of the raw books and everything. Because, you know, I did that talk to dealer video the other week. And one of the interesting, points that Nico from the Blue Chip had brought up, where he was mentioning the fact that he felt like raw books were really the thing that a lot of people were going towards. And I feel like I can kind of add some extra context into that, or add some extra insight into that as well later on when we get into this video. Yeah, okay, let's unfold this here. So this is actually a book that I picked up on a claim sale from FlipMode Comics. If you guys happen to know FlipMode, they are an Instagram consignment page. Definitely worth checking out their Instagram live claim sales. I mean, part of me selfishly doesn't want you guys to know about their Instagram live claim sales because they bring a lot of great books and they have really, really good prices. But at the same time, I feel like, I got to shout them out. But here is a book I picked up from them. They had this one up in their kind of, they basically just picked up a huge, massive collection. And they had this book, and it was a book that I wanted to upgrade on my upgrade list for 2023. A book I actually had in my top 5 comic books in my collection. But this book right here is, of course, Silver Surfer #3. First appearance of Mephisto. Well, you guys can already see what the grade is, what the price was. They had it at a 7.0, $4.95. They actually gave it to me for $400 shipped. I thought that that was a really, really good deal, especially considering that my graded copy of the 5.5 is also a book that probably retails right now for $400, fair market value. So I felt like, getting this book at what is seemingly a 7.0. I mean, it's a raw book. We don't know, right? It could be a 6.5. Maybe it'll be a 7.5. I mean, I have to open it up and inspect it. But either way, I felt like it was a really, really fair price, really good price to pick it up. And I'm really happy to have this because it had always sort of bothered me that on my back wall, I have Silver Surfer 1 as a raw, and then I had Silver Surfer 3 as a graded book, and then I have Silver Surfer 4 as a raw, and it aesthetically always kind of bothered me. So I'm happy to sort of add this raw book back to the wall, back to the collection. And, I don't really feel like I need to get this graded. I mean, I would like to know that it is a 7.0 grade. That would be nice to know if the grade is actually the grade that I picked up. But also, this raw book right here is for my own kind of personal collection. And I think that really is sort of the main idea of, sort of what I wanted to talk about in this video here today. And that's this idea of the raw book sort of rise. Now, a lot of people always used to kind of tease me or make fun of me or I know you guys in the comments are not used to, but I feel like they do now, where a lot of people were like, man, Swag, back in the day, you were all about the raw books. You had no graded books. And look at your wall behind you. It's like all graded books now. Well, I would like to make the statement officially here that it wasn't me who changed. I felt like the market had changed, right? Back when I had started the channel and I was like all raw books, basically at that time, that was pre-comic book boom. And pre-comic book boom, there actually was this point where you could pick up raw keys for cheaper than their corresponding graded value, right? Like, so if you had a 7.0 raw copy, I could pick this up for $400, and maybe the fair market value for the 7.0 graded copy would be, I don't know, $600, $700, something like that. And it just made more sense for somebody who is effectively just going to collect the book, and not really necessarily flip it onto the market, that why would I target the fair market value graded price if I can get a raw book for a lot cheaper and, basically save some money and have some equity in the book that I picked up for myself? Well, that was sort of what I was always doing. That was what I was always buying. I was always buying books because I felt like the raw prices were better. Well, eventually that started to change, right? Well, once we got into the comic book boom, eventually all these people started figuring out like, oh my God, like everyone is spending crazy money on these books. Why would I sell you a raw comic book, at a, under fair market value to the graded price if I can just sell you the graded price? And sure enough, in 2021 and 2022, we saw like the graded price of the comic book and the raw price of the comic book effectively get equalized, where, people were now charging like raw book prices at the same level of their, graded counterpart, which, even in a vacuum, that is ridiculous already because of the fact that, like, one, I'm going to have to pay to, send it into CGC. Maybe I have to pay for a pressing to actually get the grade that you're advertising it as. So why wouldn't I just get the graded book? I mean, it's already there. And that was really what sort of changed in a lot of my buying habits, where all of a sudden I felt like, well, the graded price is basically the same as the raw price, and I don't have to pay CGC to slab it. So effectively, why don't I just get the graded book? And so that's what we saw a lot in the market. And because everything was selling in that bull market, well, everyone was paying, the CGC prices for the raw books. So, things were just going crazy. And then it made sense to send all the raw books into CGC to be graded so that you can get the max value for whatever the grade was. I mean, people were already buying the raw book, but like, effectively it was this sort of race to the top mentality in those years. So everything was moving, everyone was buying. It made sense to buy a raw book, send it into CGC yourself, and then, Echo the Dolphin it back into the market, above the FMV price. Well, here we are now in 2023. And of course, one of my predictions for 2023 was that I felt like, there was going to be a lot of price consolidation, especially in that of the low and mid grade. And that's kind of where we're seeing, a lot of these opportunities where, like I can get a raw book for, $400 that is effectively the same value of my 5.5. And then effectively I can, sell my 5.5 for the same value. And I was able to sort of upgrade my comic book in my collection at no cost to me. And I kind of want to just show you guys this just so I can kind of nail the point home. I've had some conversations about this with, the consolidation of the mid-grade prices, as well as the idea of the census curve, which I think also plays a role into what is happening with the consolidation of the prices. But here, of course, Silver Surfer number 3, 3,168 universal copies on the census. And if we look right here to the 7.0 range, you'll see that the census says 310 right here. Well, 310 is what I effectively call the median of the census curve. There are more 7.0s on the census than there are in any other respective grade. So this is where I think, you start to see the prices really start to, change and stuff. So if you go underneath the 7.0, what do you notice right here in the 30-day moving for, say, the 6.5 all the way almost down to like the 3.5 right here? Well, effectively, there's a lot of consolidation with the prices where you see a 5.5 sell for $394, but then you see a 4.5 sell for $429. So a 4.5 selling for more than a 5.5, and then you see, a 6.5 selling for $496 and a 6.0 selling for $564. But ultimately, to me, it feels like, a lot of the sales in this region are anywhere between that kind of $400 to $500 range. And it's not until you get to the 7.0 that it jumps up to $656 and you start to see it kind of pull ahead of the pack. And I show you guys this to bring it back to like sort of the main point of the conversation. And that's this idea of, in this current market, with 2023, where you can't get instant flips out there on, eBay or your whatnot account or whatever, right? Everyone is once again looking for those opportunities to find instant equity. And a lot of times it's going to be hard to do that if you are buying up the graded comic book, right? If you're buying the graded comic book, it's going to be the fair market value, right? You can look on GPA, you can look on GoCollect, you can look on any pricing service, and you will see the fair market value. And any dealer or seller is just going to be like, well, here's the 30-day moving average, or here's the 90-day, or I mean, they're probably going to have it above the 90-day, to be honest. So you're not going to be able to get that instant equity. Whereas the raw books, right now, the reason that there's a raw book rise is that people are looking for those opportunities to buy, the raw book and save some equity. Even if they decide not to grade it today and not to try to flip it back into the market, they at least know that, if I can find a good deal on a raw book, then that's going to be my best way to kind of preserve equity. And that's really why you're seeing a lot of the consolidation in the mid-grade prices, because there's a lot of opportunities to buy them. You can find a 4.5, you can find a 5.5, you can find a 6.5. They're all kind of the same, any given deal, any given day, and so there's more risk, inherent risk to buying the graded prices because of the fact that, any given day, a sale could slip through the cracks and then reprice the entire market. Whereas with the raw stuff, the raw stuff, it doesn't have like, GPA data to, analyze what the fair market value prices of the raw books are. So a lot of people are looking to those to find those opportunities. There's also another factor that is playing into the raw book rise, and that's the psychology aspect of it. If you have a raw book, effectively, you always have the potential in your mind to hit a certain grade. Whereas if you have a 5.0 graded comic book, you have a 5.0 graded comic book. There's no slight chance that maybe my raw is a 5.5. Maybe it's a 6.0. I think that there still is a little bit of that element in play as well. And again, I think that kind of ladders back into like why the mid-grade graded book prices are so volatile is because, who is that collector that, very, very, much wants a 5.5. Like there's nobody who's like, yeah, 5.5 is like the exact grade range that I want for my comic books. I mean, just kind of in a vacuum, you know what I mean? Like, I think that there's more psychology with like the 4.0, the 7.0, and then like the 9 and above. I think that those tend to be benchmarks that people actually like to hit. So I think that there's kind of an interesting psychological aspect that is going on. Now, this comes with a caveat, of course. If you have a book that is of a very, very high grade of, upper echelon, like even in the Silver Surfer book, like, once you get to the 9.0s and up, the prices are still pretty expensive overall because, that's where you have less supply. Similarly, if we're talking about a Golden Age book that has a very low census count, I mean, you can then sell the raw price effectively around the same price a graded book would go for because, there's just not that many in the market. If somebody wants the book today, doesn't matter if it's raw or graded, you're going to have to pay that price. You're going to have to pony up. So it really is, all this supply and demand element that factors into it as well. So, I think for the next year or so, as we're kind of in this bear market, we're kind of finding our floor, kind of finding the bottom. I think raw books are once again going to be very popular. Number one, for people who just want to collect the book. I mean, there's no reason to grade the book, if you're not intending to, instantly flip it in the market. I mean, to a certain price degree, obviously you should probably grade a book if you're spending like 5 figures or, 4 figures on a book. I mean, it makes sense to grade it for reasons, if something happens to you, then your family will know what they're getting. But like I've said on this channel, when I talk about my index stuff, if we start to get to a point where, the Fed pivots, we start to cut interest rates, we put more money back into the system, we enter the bull market of comic books once again, well, you're going to see the surge to graded comic books at that time. A lot of people will once again be getting those free flips. A lot of people will be sending in the raw books to the graded stuff, and you will have a craze for graded books when we get to, 2024 or 2025. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. That was me just kind of showing my new raw book here for my Silver Surfer #3. Happy to have this one in a raw just for aesthetic purposes. I think it looks to be about a 7.0, so really happy to check it off my list of 2023 upgrades. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. Let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think about raw books? Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I'll see you in the next video.